You know this person. Maybe you are this person. The one who walks into a room and immediately sees what's wrong. The movie everyone loved, overrated. The restaurant people recommend, not that great. The song that's popular, annoying. The success someone celebrates, probably luck or worse, undeserved. There's always something off, something lacking, something to criticize. The world keeps offering, and they keep refusing. From the outside, it looks like negativity, pessimism, maybe even a bad personality. People stop sharing good news around them because the response is predictable. A reason why it's not actually that good. Friends learn to filter what they say. Colleagues avoid their feedback. The hater becomes isolated by their own sharpness, surrounded by people who've learned to keep their distance. And somehow, this confirms what the hater already believed. Everything is disappointing, including the people. But here's what most people miss. The person who hates everything isn't having a good time. They're not enjoying the criticism, the eye rolls, the constant disappointment. Inside, it's exhausting. The world feels relentlessly wrong, and they're the only one who sees it. There's no pleasure in being the one who's never satisfied. Just a quiet, grinding frustration that nothing ever meets the standard. A loneliness that comes from being perpetually at odds with what everyone else seems to accept. This pattern didn't come from nowhere. No one is born hating everything. Something built this. Something taught the mind to scan for flaws instead of gifts, to reject before being rejected, to criticize before being criticized. And until you understand what that something is, the hate keeps running on autopilot, burning through relationships, experiences, and any chance at peace. But what exactly turns a person into someone who hates everything? The answer goes deeper than personality. It goes back thousands of years, into the brain itself. Here's what nobody talks about. Hate is a cover story. It looks like opinion. It sounds like judgment. But underneath, it's almost always pain. Pain that found no other exit, so it learned to dress itself as criticism. The person who hates everything isn't seeing the world clearly. They're seeing it through a wound that never healed. Think about what criticism does. It creates distance. It puts you above the thing you're judging. When everything is flawed, you don't have to engage with it, hope for it, or be hurt by it. The hate becomes a shield. If nothing is good enough, nothing can disappoint you. If you reject first, you can't be rejected. The constant negativity isn't strength, it's protection. A way to stay safe in a world that once hurt you badly enough that you decided never to be vulnerable again. The pain underneath varies. For some, it's the wound of never being good enough. So now, nothing else is either. For others, it's the pain of being betrayed by hope too many times. They wanted things, believed in things, and were crushed. The lesson landed deep. Don't trust anything good. Tear it down before it tears you down. The hate is preemptive grief, a way to mourn things before they have a chance to fail you. Most haters don't know this about themselves. They think they're just realistic, clear-eyed, higher standards than everyone else. But realism doesn't feel this heavy. Clarity doesn't burn this much. What they call honesty is actually armor, and underneath the armor is someone who was hurt so deeply that they decided the whole world was the enemy. The criticism isn't about the world. It's about what the world did to them. But why does the brain default to this pattern? Why is finding fault so much easier than finding good? The answer is hardwired into our evolution, and it explains more than you might expect. The brain wasn't designed to be happy. It was designed to survive. And survival, for most of human history, meant one thing above all else: detecting threats. The ancestors who noticed the rustling in the grass lived. The ones who assumed everything was fine got eaten. Your brain is the descendant of millions of years of paranoid survivors. It's built to find what's wrong. This is called negativity bias. The brain registers negative information faster, remembers it longer, and weighs it more heavily than positive information. One criticism stings more than 10 compliments heal. One bad experience outweighs dozens of good ones. This isn't a flaw. It's a feature. In a dangerous world, the cost of missing a threat was death. The cost of missing a reward was just a missed opportunity. The math was clear. Focus on the negative. But here's the problem. The world changed. The brain didn't. We no longer live surrounded by predators. Yet the threat detection system still runs at full power. It scans for danger in emails, in conversations, in art, in other people's success. It finds problems everywhere because that's what it was trained to do for thousands of generations. The person who hates everything isn't broken. They're running ancient software in a modern environment. Some brains run this software louder than others. Genetics, early environment, trauma, all can turn up the volume on negativity bias. What starts as a survival mechanism becomes a prison. The world offers beauty, connection, moments of genuine good, and the brain dismisses them, always hunting for the flaw, the trap, the hidden danger. The hate isn't chosen, it's inherited, but inherited doesn't mean permanent. So if negativity is wired into everyone, why do some people become chronic haters while others don't? The answer often lies not in evolution, but in the first classroom we ever entered: childhood. No child is born cynical. Babies arrive open, curious, ready to love the world without conditions. The hate comes later, taught, absorbed, built brick by brick in the first years of life. The home you grew up in didn't just shape your memories. It shaped the lens through which you see everything. Some children grew up with critics, parents who pointed out every flaw, every mistake, every way the child fell short. Nothing was ever good enough. Not the grades, not the behavior, not the child themselves. The message landed without words. The world is a place where things are wrong, and your job is to find what's wrong before someone finds it in you. The child internalized the critical voice, and now, decades later, that voice runs automatically, judging everything the way it was once judged. Other children grew up with disappointment, promises broken, hopes crushed, a parent who said they'd come but didn't, a home where good things were announced and then taken away. These children learned that hope is dangerous, that trusting anything good leads to pain. So they stopped trusting. They started preemptively rejecting, finding fault before they could be let down again. The hate isn't about the present. It's about a past where hope was punished. Some grew up in chaos, where nothing was stable enough to trust. Others grew up invisible, where nothing they did mattered enough to be seen. Both create the same outcome: a mind that stops believing anything can be good because good was never reliable. The criticism becomes a way to make sense of a world that never made sense. If everything is bad, at least you understand the rules. But childhood doesn't just shape the mind. It shapes the body. And in the body, there's a system that keeps the hate alive long after the original danger has passed. Hate isn't just a thought, it's a body state. When you criticize, judge, or reject, there's a physical experience underneath: a tension, a tightness, a subtle readiness for conflict. The person who hates everything isn't just thinking negatively. Their nervous system is stuck in a mode that perceives threat everywhere. The body decided, long ago, that the world is dangerous, and it hasn't updated since. The nervous system has different gears. One is for safety, relaxed, open, able to receive. Another is for danger, tight, scanning, ready to fight or flee. In a healthy system, these shift fluidly. Threat appears, you respond. Threat passes, you relax. But for some people, the threat mode became the default. The body forgot how to shift back. Now it's always braced, always vigilant, always looking for what's wrong because wrong is what it expects. This state changes perception, literally. When the nervous system is in threat mode, the brain filters reality differently. It notices problems faster. It dismisses positives as irrelevant. It interprets neutral information as negative. The person isn't choosing to hate. They're seeing through a filter installed by a body that doesn't feel safe. The hate is the output of a system locked in survival. The world looks terrible because the body feels terrible. This is why positive thinking doesn't work for chronic haters. You can't think your way out of a body state. Telling yourself things are fine doesn't convince a nervous system that feels under siege. The tension remains. The filter stays on. The hate keeps generating because its source isn't mental, it's physical. Until the body learns it's safe, the mind will keep finding evidence that it isn't. But here's where it gets complicated. For some people, the hate isn't just protection, it's identity. And that identity comes with a payoff most haters won't admit. There's a secret reward in criticism that nobody likes to admit. When you find fault in something, you place yourself above it. When you dismiss what others enjoy, you become the one with higher standards. The hate isn't just protection, it's elevation. It's a way to feel better than a world you can't seem to belong to. This isn't conscious. The hater doesn't wake up thinking, "I'll judge everything today so I can feel superior." But the mechanism runs anyway. Every movie that's overrated means your taste is more refined. Every success that's undeserved means you understand merit better than others. Every popular thing that's actually garbage means you see what the masses can't. The criticism builds a quiet throne, and from that throne, you look down at a world that suddenly seems beneath you. This is compensation. Somewhere deep, there's a feeling of not being enough, not successful enough, not loved enough, not seen enough. The hate covers it. If you're the one doing the judging, no one can judge you. If you're the critic, you're not the one being criticized. The superiority is borrowed, fake, built on tearing down rather than building up, but it feels real. And for someone who feels small inside, feeling above others is addictive. The problem is that the throne is a prison. You can't connect from above. You can't receive from a position of judgment. Every person you look down on is a person you can't be close to. Everything you dismiss is an experience you can't have. The superiority protects against feeling less than, but it also protects against feeling anything at all. You win the game by refusing to play, and the prize is emptiness. But superiority comes with a cost the hater can't see until it's too late. A cost measured not in relationships lost, but in energy spent. Hating is work. It doesn't look like it. It looks like sitting back and judging. But inside, it's a constant expenditure. Every rejection requires energy. Every criticism demands fuel. Being against everything means fighting everything, all the time, with no breaks. The world keeps coming, and you keep pushing it away. That's not rest. That's war. The hater is tired in ways they can't explain. Their life might look manageable. They're not doing anything particularly hard. But they're drained, depleted, running on fumes. Because negativity isn't neutral. It's active. Finding fault requires scanning, evaluating, comparing, judging. The brain is working overtime, processing everything through a filter of what's wrong here. There's no moment of simply receiving, simply enjoying, simply letting something be good enough. Positive experiences give energy. They replenish. When you enjoy something genuinely, without resistance, it fills you. But the hater can't access this. Everything comes with conditions, with critique, with a but. The movie was good but. The meal was fine but. The person is okay but. The but is a tax on every experience. Nothing nourishes fully because nothing is accepted fully. The hater starves at a buffet, picking at every dish and finding each one lacking. This exhaustion compounds. The less energy you have, the more irritable you become. The more irritable you are, the more faults you find. The more faults you find, the more drained you feel. It's a cycle that feeds itself. The hate creates the tiredness, and the tiredness creates more hate. The person caught in this loop doesn't understand why life feels so heavy. Everything is heavy when you're pushing against all of it, but the heaviest weight isn't the world they're pushing against. It's something much closer, something they can never escape. Here's the truth no one who hates everything wants to face. The harshest criticism is never outward. It's inward. The voice that finds fault in every movie, every person, every success. That voice doesn't go quiet when it turns toward the self. It gets louder. The person who hates everything hates themselves most of all. They're just better at hiding it. Listen closely to chronic critics and you'll hear it. The impossible standards they hold others to, they hold themselves to worse. The flaws they spot instantly in everyone else, they've cataloged their own 1,000 times. The judgment they spray outward is just overflow. The excess of a brutality that lives inside, aimed at themselves every moment of every day. Hating the world is almost a relief. At least it's a break from hating the one person they can never escape. This is the engine beneath the pattern. If you grew up being criticized, you internalize the critic. Now it lives in you, commenting on everything you do, everything you are. Nothing you accomplish is enough. No version of yourself is acceptable. The self-hate is so constant, so familiar, that projecting it outward feels natural. Finding fault in the world is just the inner critic going external. It's the same voice, the same standards, the same relentless dissatisfaction, just pointed at a different target. The tragedy is that the hate was supposed to help. If I criticize first, I can't be criticized. If I reject first, I can't be rejected. But you can't outrun a voice that lives inside you. The external world becomes a mirror, reflecting back the same judgment you carry within. You hate what you see because you hate who's seeing it. The war with the world is really a war with yourself. And it's a war you're always losing. But losing a war with yourself has consequences beyond exhaustion. It reaches into every relationship you try to have. Hate builds walls. Every criticism is a brick. Every dismissal is mortar. Over time, the person who hates everything finds themselves inside a fortress they didn't consciously build. Protected, yes, but utterly alone. The walls that keep disappointment out also keep connection out. And connection is the one thing no human can live without. People pull away from chronic haters. Not always dramatically, often quietly, gradually. They stop calling. They stop sharing good news. They stop inviting. It's not that they don't care. It's that being around constant negativity is draining. Every interaction becomes a risk. Will this be criticized too? Will my enthusiasm be met with dismissal? Will I leave feeling worse than I came? Eventually, people protect themselves by creating distance. The hater notices and thinks, see, people are disappointing, but they don't see their own role in the disappearing. The loneliness confirms the worldview. If no one stays, the world really is as bad as it seems. If relationships fail, people really can't be trusted. The hater uses their isolation as evidence, not realizing they created it. The prophecy fulfills itself. The walls go higher, the criticism gets sharper, and the distance grows until the hater is alone with the one thing they can't escape: themselves. Inside the fortress, there's a hunger that never gets fed. Humans need to be seen, accepted, enjoyed. The hater craves this like everyone else, maybe more, because they've had so little of it. But they can't ask for it. Asking feels weak, and they've built an identity around not needing anyone, not being affected, being above it all. So they starve, surrounded by walls they built themselves, waiting for someone to break through, while making sure no one can. But what if someone could break through? What if, underneath all that hate, there was something else waiting? Something the hater can't admit they need. Beneath the criticism, beneath the dismissal, beneath the walls and the superiority and the constant finding of fault, there's a want. a desperate, secret want that the hater can barely admit to themselves, let alone speak out loud. They want what everyone wants: to be loved, to be accepted, to belong somewhere without having to earn it. The hate is the sound of that want being refused expression. The cruelest part is that the hating makes the wanting impossible. You can't receive love while judging everything. You can't belong while holding yourself above. The very mechanism that protects the hater from rejection also guarantees their isolation. They want to be seen, but they've made themselves impossible to reach. They want to be accepted, but they reject first to avoid being rejected. The strategy designed to prevent pain ensures that the deepest need never gets met. This want often traces back to the beginning. A child who wasn't loved right, or wasn't loved at all. A child who learned that they weren't enough, that approval had to be earned and could be revoked at any moment. That child still lives inside the hater, still hungry, still waiting for someone to say, "You're okay as you are." But the adult built walls so thick that the words can't get through anymore. The child waits in a fortress the adult constructed. The hater doesn't know how to ask for what they need. Asking feels like weakness. Needing feels like failure. So they perform strength through criticism, independence through dismissal. Look how much I don't need. Look how little affects me. But it's a performance. Underneath is someone aching for the very thing they push away. Someone who wants desperately to stop fighting and finally be let in. The question is, can that happen? Can someone who's hated everything for so long actually change? The answer might surprise you. Change doesn't arrive like a thunderbolt. It comes quietly, in moments so small they're easy to miss. A sunset that catches you off guard, and for a second, just a second, you don't critique it. A song that moves something before your mind can dismiss it. A person who says something kind, and instead of deflecting, you feel it land. These moments are cracks in the wall. They don't look like much, but they're everything. The softening begins with exhaustion. Not the tiredness you push through, but the bone-deep fatigue of maintaining a war you never consciously chose. One day, the hating just feels too heavy. The criticism takes more than it gives. The superiority stops feeling like winning and starts feeling like a prison. Something in you whispers, "I can't do this anymore." That whisper is the beginning. What follows isn't instant transformation. It's curiosity, a willingness to ask questions you've avoided. What if I'm wrong? What if the world isn't as bad as I've been seeing it? What if my filter is the problem, not everything it's been filtering? These questions feel dangerous because they threaten the identity built on being right, being above, being the one who sees clearly. But they're also the door. You can't walk through a door you won't acknowledge exists. The first thing that softens is usually small. You let yourself enjoy something without adding "but." You notice something good and don't immediately search for what's wrong with it. You catch the critical voice and instead of obeying it, you pause. Just pause. That pause is revolutionary. In that pause lives the possibility of a different life. One where you're not at war with everything, including yourself. But what does that life actually look like? What waits on the other side when someone finally puts down the weapons they've carried for so long? There's a world you haven't seen. Not because it doesn't exist, but because the filter wouldn't let it through. A world where things can be good enough without being perfect. Where people can be flawed and still worth loving. Where experiences can be enjoyed without being dissected. This world has been here all along, waiting on the other side of the war you've been fighting. And the moment you stop fighting, it becomes visible. The first thing you notice is space. Mental space. When you're not constantly scanning for faults, there's room for something else. The mind quiets. The shoulders drop. The jaw unclenches. You realize how much energy the hating consumed. Energy that's suddenly available for other things. For creating instead of criticizing. For receiving instead of rejecting. For living instead of defending against life. Relationships change. Not because people suddenly become better, but because you can finally let them be human. The flaws that once disqualified everyone become just part of the picture. Present, but not defining. You can enjoy a friend without cataloging their shortcomings. You can love someone without waiting for them to fail. Connection becomes possible because you're no longer holding everyone to standards designed to keep them out. You find yourself softer, and it doesn't feel like weakness. It feels like relief. The superiority you thought was strength was actually exhaustion. The criticism you thought was clarity was actually fear. Letting go of the hate doesn't make you naive or blind. It makes you free. Free to enjoy a meal without rating it. Free to watch a movie without writing a review in your head. Free to meet a person and simply be curious instead of judgmental. This isn't about becoming positive, pretending everything is wonderful, or ignoring real problems. It's about releasing the compulsion to find fault in everything as a way to feel safe. Real safety doesn't come from being above the world. It comes from being in it, connected, present, open to both the beauty and the pain without needing to armor yourself against either. If this put words to something you've carried but never named, you're not alone. The hating wasn't your fault. It was a survival strategy, built in a time when you needed protection. But you're not that unprotected person anymore. You can put the weapon down. The war is over, not because you won, but because you finally stopped needing to fight. And in that surrender, something unexpected happens. Life begins to feel worth living. The world didn't change. You did, and that changes everything.